The More Movement Crew.
Welcome to the More Movement Crew podcast. I am your wonderful host, Kenita Porter, and we are back again. This is season 4, and it's called What's Good. And it's basically we are revisiting previous guests and checking in, seeing what they've got going on. We know that they are doing some incredible things, and so we want to just circle back and see what's up. And so glad that you could join us. If you have not subscribed to this podcast, you'll want to do that now. And you'll want to make sure that you keep up with all the latest things that the More Movement Crew has going on. And also share it, because this one's going to be good. This is going to be a good episode. So share it. We got my girl, Sarah Nunez, in the building, and we are going to just catch up. So you guys are invited on our conversation to hear what we got going on. So welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Nina. Thank you. It's so good to see you.
So good to see you. So good to reconnect. For those of you who don't know, Sarah and I have worked together, really great friends, and we just have a love for community, a love for education, and a love for supporting students of color. And all kind of other things, right? All kind of other things we have a love for. Food, cooking, health tips, everything. So this conversation is going to be really, really good. But the first question that I told Sarah I was going to ask her is a question that's kind of going to give you guys who are watching just an idea of like where she is today, where current day where she is. So the question was, current day, name 3 songs that you would consider to be the soundtrack of your life and explain each one. So I'm going to let her start with that.
All right. Thanks, Kenita. Yeah, that's a hard question because I like a lot of different genres of music. And I even reached out to some friends and asked for their advice. I'm like, what is the song? But the one I think, so I taught myself how to play guitar at about the age of 14. And the song I taught myself was Redemption Song by Bob Marley. Bob Marley's easy to play on a guitar. It's not intricate, doesn't take a lot of chord changes. And I have a good ear, so I was able to sort of self-teach. My father and my brother were both guitar players. So I would watch them play and was always like, ooh, I like that. I want to learn how to do that myself. And of course, my personality, I'm not going to take classes. I'll just teach myself. And I think there's just an all kind of, it's definitely part of my personality. If I don't know how to do something, I won't run from it. I'll figure it out. I'll make sure I'm in a constant state of learning, and just, figuring it out. However, I got to figure it out with whatever tools I have at the moment. And even if that means, reaching out to people or, doing my own research or just listening, intently. So Redemption Song. And then I'd say, so I helped take care of my mom and dad as the primary caretaker, a role which was a little bit more intense over the years, which is starting to lighten. Very intentional plan on my own to help get some systems set up so I could have a little bit less in my day-to-day. But my mom and dad really liked the song Lovely Day by Bill Withers. And, it's just one of them catchy tunes that once you listen to it or start singing it, like if I started singing it right now, everybody's going to be like, oh, lovely day. Right?
First verse, when I wake up in the morning.
Yeah. So, I think that's like, life throws at us a whole lot of adversities and a whole lot of barriers and things to have to climb and struggles. And I think that song's just that one that like, oh yeah, it's okay, right? We're going to get through this. And my mom was on in a hospital bed, like not sure what she was going to like after having brain surgery. And we weren't sure kind of how she was going to repair after that. And I remember playing that song all the time kind of for her. And when she came to, that song was playing. And so she has a really sweet memory too, not just of it being one of her favorite songs, but like of this really sort of hard time, you know, that she went through and that the whole family went through. And then I would say also Lizzo's I'm Living My Best Life, because I don't know, I think that like that song just makes me feel really, really good. And when I think about like how far I've come and what I've been able to achieve, even not always in the best way, in the perfect way, but definitely being my unique self and honoring that, and you know, pushing up against, you know, systems and sort of society as well, because not all people really want to hear the kinds of things I have to say, especially when it comes to equity and social justice causes. So yeah, I'm living my best life.
I love it. I love it. And I love the song selections, obviously. I mean, Bob Marley is just is great. I mean, there's just so much that you can say about Bob and his music. It's timeless, it's revolutionary. It's just good stuff. And then of course, Lovely Day, that's just great as well. It's you when you listen to Lovely Day, you just see like the sun, you envision the sun is shining, right? And it's like a fresh start. And then of course Lizzo, Living Your Best Life. I think that those three songs, like, really, you really did the homework, right? This is what I needed you to do, right? To give us an idea of like where you are. I think when I ask that question, it gives people just the idea of like where you are in life, right? How you're feeling about life. And so, you know, me and my questions, I always come up with these questions that make people think and
Yeah, I like this one. I think I'm going to use it
you should definitely
for a staff meeting next week.
see. Let me know how that one goes too. So that's perfect. So you know, you kind of helped us to kind of kick off you know, your journey and having a conversation about your journey. I think you know, so much has changed since we talked, right? You were transitioning out of your role at U of L, and you were, you know, focusing 100% on your doctorate. And so now that so much has changed, can you kind of catch us up with what's going on? I guess start professionally, obviously, since U of L was the last role, but what's going on professionally?
Yeah, so you know, COVID happened, which was just a lot. I mean, we got to name that, you know, being and surviving and thriving the best we can inside of a global pandemic was a lot. And caretaking, you know, to elderly adults who are super susceptible to the virus. You know, survived COVID, and we're still in it, but, you know, had a lot of energy kind of taken in that area. So definitely over the last year and a half was to do a lot for school. But then I recently, in May of this year of 2021, started a position with the Chestnut School of Herbal Medicine. And I am running their equity, social justice, and community engagement projects initiatives. So that's exciting. And there is also a lot of so I run and help mentor our main person that does our scholarship programs. We have lots of reparations, trying to get herbal knowledge into the hands of Black and Brown and LGBTQ plus folks. So a lot of my work is around, you know, community engagement, but also we offer a scholarship, and that opens up next week, where we give out 300 scholarships for folks to do our program from across the nation. And so it's a really good role, and I'm easing into it, and also, you know, learning a lot and able to apply a lot of my skills, you know, in one place. So I'm enjoying it. And in the process of taking that job and also working on, you know, setting my life up and sort of juggling all the things that I handle, I decided to relocate back to Asheville, North Carolina, which is where the school is based, So now I'm living in Asheville and no longer in Louisville, but definitely my heart and my soul is still there, and have lots of connections, and we'll be spending more time there. Of course, I won't always leave, who knows, maybe I'll move back there one day. But here I am. Yeah, here I am in Asheville, having left here 7 years ago for the position at the University of Louisville, and just back here in Asheville to help my parents and succeed in this role where the school is based.
And so listening to your story, and obviously we know, for those of you watching, the podcast is really about the pursuit of purpose, and really figuring out where you're supposed to be, where God wants you to be. And so I think that this opportunity that you have is something that found you, right? It's something that you were destined to have. And so can you really talk about kind of how you even discovered the role, or how did you make, this connection?
Yeah. And it's funny that I mentioned the pandemic, because that had so much to do with it. It's like I was sitting at home, all of these things were going on around us. I'm like, the people need herbs, right? But yet at the same time, like Black and brown people also need to rediscover what our people lost, and relearn what we have the right to know, right? But it was stolen from us, or taken from us, or burnt, or whatever, in between Latin America and Africa, and colonization and all the things. So, how do we find that again? And so started making teas and herbal breed steams and bath salts, thinking we've got to figure out a way to get these products, and also work with a group of people to start to rediscover that root. And so we started ALFORA Herb Collective out of Louisville, and have a little hub in Louisville, have a little hub in Phoenix, and then I'm working on starting this hub in Asheville. And through that work and just being around herbs all the time, and making all these kits and packets, and talking about it on social media and with my friends. I mean, even you started enjoying these breathe steams, which actually helped your respiration and lung issues that you might not have found relief from other places, and just seeing how it changed people's lives, and talking about it so much. I was like, and then one day my partner sent me this link to this job, and I was like, wait, what? I think this is kind of written for me, or whatever. And so I applied and got a call back and interviewed. And even through the interview process, they were like, we actually want you to do something else for us. We don't want you to do the job that you've applied for. We want to actually create a position for you to help guide us and walk us through this equity and social justice work that is so needed in the herbal community, but also needed for the school, because they're students. I mean, we have 6,000 students across the nation, the globe. And of those students, there's a lot of BIPOC, or, people of color, and LGBTQ plus students. So there's a need for them to be integrated into the school and into the content. So it definitely found me. And also, I think my path was one of which, I was researching all this stuff about traditional healing practices for my PhD. I was doing this internship with Las Maestras Center at UC Santa Barbara. I was, working with local activists and folks trying to figure out, how do we heal, after we've experienced violence from the state, right? The National Guard was in Louisville for many, many weeks last year, and it was traumatic for people. And so sometimes sitting down and drinking some tea, or having a tea ceremony, or being able to take a minute to take a bath and soak your feet, right, after you've maybe been walking downtown for hours on end, and you had to run because how all the things that were happening in the moment. So really with that, but then it ended up expanding and becoming more of a how do we take care of ourselves? Yeah. What does self-preservation look like? Yeah. And so all these questions and energy and energetic was coming into the space, and I was growing herbs all over my house, and drying herbs all over the house, and just doing and making these care kits. And And then all of a sudden this position came, and, I wasn't ready to necessarily go back to work full time. But it seemed like the right time and the right role. Um, and, I was originally in a position to also be the dean of students, but because there's so much work to do right now with our equity stuff, we decided to put the dean of students on hold, and look to hiring for that at another time, or kind of figuring out what's next. But I am doing some student development, which is a beautiful part too, because really that's my thing, is student identity, student development, like mentoring young people, like anyone really, because our students are all ages, but to, to fulfill their purpose and to figure out, the rays of their sunshine, and how they're going to make their life, whatever they want it to become.
Yeah.
And the steps that it takes to get there, but also like, how do you do enough deep reflection? Like, how do you take that time in the garden to find out what that is? How well do you have to know yourself? And so the ability to be able to work with students, and also under the like umbrella, or under the like ray of of herbal medicine, is like, it's just a great fit.
Yeah. There's so much, connectivity as you were talking to just, I mean, there's a scripture that says like your gifts make room for you. And so you have all of these different giftings, and I see all of them being at play in this role, right? And so as you're talking about it, it's like, it's so, that it's more than just a circumstance. That you are able to now take your love for herbs and your passion for healing, community, especially communities of color, but also incorporating the education piece into that. It's so much connectivity. It's fit for you, right? It was designed for you. And I just love how important, I love the mission myself, as you guys don't know. I've made the transition to being vegan. And so I'm discovering the importance of self-care. I'm discovering the importance of the use of herbal medicine to heal. And like she said, I purchased, I'm actually still using the steam in a really cool way, like actually steaming and then doing a facial at the same time. So I'm using my facial steamer and putting some of the steam in there. So I'm getting a 2-for-1, like exfoliating and steaming. Look, that's a tip. You guys watching, that's a free tip, a free beauty tip. But I digress. You can just see, that connectivity, into play. And so are you feeling like that, that's happening, and that, your role is really like, it's really just beginning, honestly. Like, and yeah, I guess that's kind of what I'm asking. Like, how do you feel about the way that it's connecting?
Yeah, really good, really good. And I think these moments of reflection actually help me to see it even better, right? And to be like, to have that reflected back to me, it's like, oh yeah, hey, yes, Kenita, thank you for seeing me, right? But like, how often in life do we actually really have folk around us that see us like that?
Yeah.
And can communicate that. And so I think that helps a lot. And then, yeah, and I think through storytelling and just, people ask, well, why did you end up here? And why are you back? And, what's going on? And it's like, well, here's the why.
Yeah.
I think also leads into, that something else is bigger beyond my, my like ability, like, not, beyond my control, that's empowered, that's guiding. Yeah. And definitely the skill set, being able to jump on a spreadsheet and like coordinate some things in a project management way, or then like plan like, a facilitated training on some type of equity topic, and then jump to course creation and content and writing, right? Or coordinating with BIPOC teachers, like, all of that. It's like, pretty much pieces and parts of even all of the roles that I've ever had kind of combined into one, because I've been an executive director of a nonprofit. I've been in a university, a 4-year public research one institution like U of L, and a cultural center. I worked in a community college, sort of smaller size community college. Done a lot of little businessy things, always trying to,
work.
Yeah, like lots of side businesses and things. Yeah, and so it definitely takes a little bit of different experiences that I've had and rolls them into one, because it's a private business.
Yeah.
So, but that's, providing an education source.
And you talked about, I think earlier when you were talking about the role, not so much being able to connect with the students, but in your doctoral work, like you're building, for that very purpose. So essentially you're still working towards doing the work with students. So do you want to talk maybe about any updates in terms of your doctoral work, or how are you feeling about that?
Yeah, I'm always about like the demystification of this stuff. Like it's, when I began looking for doctoral programs, so I was like, oh, this is so hard. This is going to be so intense. I'm not going to have a life, But the good news is that I'm finished with my coursework. So the coursework took about 2 years part-time I went full-time for a year. So it took me, it can take working full-time. It can take about 3 years to get your coursework done, depending on what your master's is. And then I took comprehensive exams and I passed those in the spring. So I'm in proposal stage, which means I basically write up the first 3 chapters of my dissertation and present it to my committee and ask them, to give me lots of feedback and tell me what's good or bad. And then from there, I enter into research mode, and then I write that up, and then that's the dissertation. So I'm hoping that in a year I'll be done. Well, 8 months. And I've gotten a little bit more solidified into what I'm researching. So I'm working on uncovering the traditional healing practices of Latinx students in the New South. So looking at, what are those moments where they were like, oh yeah, that's a healing practice that actually makes me stronger, closer, brings me closer to my identity, makes me feel more resilient, or just makes me feel calmer, right? Because as we go through life, right, all these things happen, right? It's like anxiety and stress, and like it's crippling, and it can like really knock you off your feet. And so so it's great, and I'm using methodologies of narrative, qualitative narrative research, but the use of testimonials is a little bit more specific. So people telling their story is my method. And so yeah, I get to interview about up to 10 students and have them tell me their stories, and then I get to analyze it and write about it, with the hopes to show higher education institutions, and I think even K through 12, right, that like in the South, like in this area from Louisville, I consider Louisville, Kentucky, the South. I know there's probably a lot of debate about that.
There is, but
it's Southern, Midwestern, but in places like Kentucky, in places like Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, right, that these states can focus more in their curricular and co-curricular activities to actually provide initiatives and support and programs that that focus on these traditional healing practices, versus, right, like making us feel even more like it's part of our culture and it's who we are. And we'll be better students, and we'll be stronger in our scholarship, stronger in our ability to show up to class every day, right? If we had, of course, right, all the things like curriculums and modeled teachers, right? We've already know kind of like ways that make students of color successful from a retention standpoint. But what I'd like to say is that retention isn't just about, like, it's really about integrating these kinds of models into the classroom and into those extracurricular activities.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's awesome work. I mean, obviously I have a personal connection with the modeling of student success, but I just think that work just continues to connect to the things that you're doing. And I'm just excited. I'm excited for when you finish, your research and we're able to celebrate that, because that's lots of, I think it's like you said, it's your experience and all these things going into this research and telling stories, student stories. How impactful is that?
Mhm.
So I think that's amazing. And I listened to our first interview and you made a quote. And the quote, I can't remember who you quoted, but the quote was great. It was, I might plant seeds of trees um, that I may never sit under. I may, you said, I may never eat the fruit. I might come back later and enjoy the shade of the tree. I am not planting it or sitting under it, but for others to come and to benefit from it. Based on where you are now, how does that still apply? Remember you said that, and I actually wrote up like how you said it, because I just love the way that you said it. So, how do you feel about that now?
Yeah, well, I was thinking about it the other day. I was on a call. I'm applying for a grant to get some funding to help support ALFORA Art build out in North Carolina. And it's with a group that I helped start years ago. It's called Co-Think. And I said to the folks I was on the call, I was like, well, I'm back. I'm here to eat the fruit of the tree that I planted
Back.
7 years ago. And they laughed, and I was like, I'm gonna have some peaches. I want some plums, probably some figs, So yeah, no, it's really fascinating that I've been saying that for a while. I think with every move and every transition, kind of like, like even in Louisville, like there were seeds I planted there that I'll come back and sit under, and maybe I'll come back and eat some of the fruit, or maybe not. It'll be left for others to harvest. But so yeah, it's still so true. And I hope that I can continue to carry out that, the essence of that, like in the ability to like touch lives in really simple ways, but really big ways. Does that make sense? Like,
But I also think that you may not necessarily receive directly from that work, but you still receive in other ways. So it's like you see, it's the sowing and reaping of things, but you may reap that in opportunities that come later. So I think that it's a continuing thing as you put in and sow into people, you will always have, right? That's just a belief I have. So I think that that's kind of the same thing. And so your life is fruitful in other areas because
right.
of what you sowed, what you gave.
Yes.
Or planted, what you planted.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So we're like, look, now our brains are like, we're going deep. We're having a philosophical moment here. But I wrote that quote down because I just really loved it. And we talked about it. So I just had to ask you that again.
Yeah.
Because it was just good. So if you haven't watched her first interview, you might want to go back and watch it so you can hear the quote from her instead of me trying to read it. So the next question is like, what's next? What's next for your work? What's next for you? What do you want to share?
What's next? I'm going to start planting. So all these herbs we grow, look, and this is the same for you, Kanina. I was going to say this earlier when you talked about the breed steam. All those herbs that are in that, you can plant those in your garden and make your own breed steam for you and all your friends, right? That's kind of the work. It's like, how do we get this out of, again, sort of a little bit of demystifying it.
Right.
The oregano, the thyme, the eucalyptus, are all herbs that you can grow in your herb garden in the summer.
And that's what I'm going to need your support and help with, is growing them and taking care of them, right? And making the time, because I had the intention. I was like, yeah, I can do that. And then I don't know what happened.
It happened. Yeah.
I gotta learn how to, really work with them and nurture them. And I didn't take the time, but now I'm at a good place now. I think I can do it. So, so I'll have you show me.
Yes, we'll do some tutorials, but yeah, so my next sort of thing, I think, as well, to finish my PhD, of course, right? Succeed in this position, and the new position that I'm in with Chestnut School of Herbs. And success right now just looks like a lot of team building and a lot of, setting up of systems and structures, so that the equity work that we're building, when you do equity work really well, you work yourself out of a job, because it actually gets instituted inside the whole system, and everybody is just like just like they're doing their job every day, and they're thinking, "Ooh, wait, ooh, right? How's white supremacy culture showing up for me today? Ooh, yeah, that's, maybe I should address this in this way and do this in this way." So it becomes so integrated in the institution that there really doesn't need to be a director of equity. So, and not that I don't want to work there, it's not about me it's just about really saying that we should all be integrating this work. Everybody's job is to do it, and it's in every part and system of the business or the organization. So, but I do really want to plant these plants. I want to grow these herbs that we're putting into all these kits. I want to have experience drying them, setting up a drying station, setting up the screen printing shop, so that we can have our little hub here in Asheville, serve communities and teach folks how to do it, and say, hey, anybody can do this in your own home, and maybe here's some free plants or seeds, or you want to learn how to mix the herbs. Sometimes it's just getting your hands dirty and smelling it it's just really healing. So there's that, and I just got, I'm in this new home, so getting it set up, and making sure my sweet puppy gets, trained better.
You got plenty of things to do. I think what I also want you to share is basically, how can people get more information about the collective? How can they connect with you guys and buy product?
Sure. Yeah. We mostly give away stuff, so we can mail it to you. Mostly it's giveaway. That's the whole thing is to get it into your hands. So, but we are on ALFORA Herb Collective, on Instagram and on Facebook.
Awesome.
And also on Gmail. So just ALFORA Herb Collective, Gmail, Instagram, and Facebook.
And I'll post that link under this video so that you can connect to them and make sure that you stay connected, because like I said, I have used the products. I love them. I look forward to learning how to grow my own herbs. So you definitely want to connect with them. So thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. And we always appreciate having you on the show, and just really look forward to all of the work that you're doing and that you're going to continue to do. So we appreciate you, and you're just great. You're just dope. Thanks for keep doing this work.
Yes. Thank you for the time and the opportunity to
no problem.
Your audience.
So thank you for tuning in today. We hope that you enjoyed this episode. And until next time, be blessed.